video shoot, this email question came in right at the last minute, and the gal said, she asked me, will you show us how to remove a bind-off row to correct a stitch? And I was looking over the other things I had to shoot today, and I thought, yeah, I can fit this in. And so here we are. I'm going to show you how to remove a bind-off row from your work to go back and correct something. And, well, let's just get right into it. Here I have this little piece of work, and this is a mistake I put in there on purpose because we are going to want to correct that mistake. So I'm going to start with the back of the work because the first thing I have to do is to undo the end that I wove in. And I did this little bit here in pink because this is the way that I always weave in ends. And if you have a way that you do things that's consistent, that you can rely on yourself for doing it a certain way, it's going to be easier for me to remove the end that I wove in here because I always weave in ends the same way. And I'll give you a link here on screen to my playlist of weaving in ends into different fabric. Now I see that I have a little tail end here, and it's likely that, oh, there it is. I'm going to follow the way that I always weave in ends, and sure enough, I'm finding the end of my work, the tail end. I think that's the most difficult part, is finding the tail end and the way you wove it in and getting it unraveled through the work. Now, if you remember when you did the bind-off row, the last thing you did was you had a loop and you pulled the tail end through that loop. So now we just need to pull the tail end back out of that loop. And there we go. And we should be able to pop the bind-off out. And we did. Now I'm just going to pick up these stitches before something bad happens to them. And if you're not sure of what needle size you used on that project, just pick something smaller than you think is necessary. Now, whoops, I kind of went too far because there's a mistake that I want to fix. I have a purl stitch here when I actually want a knit stitch. And I can just drop this column down to the stitch that's a mistake, and I'm just going to work knit stitches, just pull the ladder rung through the loop all the way up. And you can see I have corrected that mistake. And I can finish the bind off again and weave the end in again, which will be a little tricky because it's a pretty short end. But that's the correction. Couple things here. Removing a cast-on row is not as easy as removing a bind-off row. I've never successfully removed a cast-on row to find live stitches that I was able to work. Picking up and knitting is always a lot easier. If the piece has been around for a long time and it's wool, it's likely that the fibers will start felting together a little bit. You won't be able to remove a bind-off row this easily. But if it's a quick and simple thing where you've knit a scarf and you see a mistake that you've made, or you want to redo the bind-off, let's say the bind-off is too tight or too loose, this is how you do it. If you are consistent with the way you weave in your ends, that is the trickiest part of all of this. Anyway, thanks for the suggestion, and please keep those coming, and good luck.